conversation. We're here with Heather and a bunch of graduating seniors. So what we're going to do is we'll go around and just have you guys introduce yourselves and what school you're graduating from. So yeah.
I'm Lainee, and I'm graduating from Legacy.
I'm Anna Claire Hicks, and I'm graduating from Grace Community.
Awesome.
I'm Macy, and I'm also graduating from Grace.
I'm Ella, and I'm graduating from Grace as well.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, and the purpose of this conversation today is just for these ladies just to share their kind of high school experience, share how God has worked in their lives, and just being seniors and what that means, and advice to those younger than them too. And so, really excited about that. But wanted to see if Heather, if you had anything you wanted to say or anything to kind of start us off. You know, you've been with these girls, so kind of tell your story of your relationship with these girls. Let's start with that.
Well, I've been around these girls since 6th grade, so
Nice.
Since they came in 6th grade. But I've gotten the privilege of being their small group leader individually just for them the last 2.5 years. And so yeah, I've been around them for a long time, and I've seen them grow into some pretty incredible young women, and I'm really excited about their future because I know that they're ready.
Awesome. That's super cool. Let's also do this. I know we talked about it earlier, but let's also go around and say what you guys are going to be doing next year as well. So go ahead.
I'm going to TJC and doing dental hygiene.
I am going to OU, and I will be majoring in marketing.
I'm going to A&M, and I'm majoring in allied health.
I'm going to Vanderbilt, and I'm majoring in Medicine Health Society.
Sweet, sweet, awesome. All right. Well, I got the first question for you guys, and we don't have to go in any order, so whoever would like to go first, just jump on in. What would be one piece of advice you'd give to current high school students? One thing you'd say to current high school students.
I was thinking about this, and I think it's to find your community, and that doesn't have to necessarily, like, at a church is awesome, but, like, where you, like, something you enjoy, because, like, I feel like a lot of times kids are like, oh, I need to be this in high school, but, like, that's not really what fulfills them, and that's not really, like, what brings them joy. So my piece of advice is just, like, find what you love and find your community there, because that's where you're going to grow the most, and that's, like, where your relationships are going to be the most beneficial.
Yeah, so like the common interest and finding people with that
Yeah.
common interest, and then kind of, because there will be different people within that.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. So were you able to find that in high
Yes,
school?
I think I found it at church and at school too.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
awesome. What was that group at school? Was it a specific club, event, sports, or?
Honestly, not really. It's kind of just like my friends, each of us had like different ways that we were connected, because I used to do volleyball, and we like all did volleyball together, but I don't do that anymore, and I didn't do it since sophomore year. But like we just all stayed connected, and I don't know, I guess but then like there was other friends, and we like were connected in this way, and like we just all made like, and we had like friends outside of school that made our connections, so like yeah.
It's like, I mean, having good community. It's like an age-old thing. It's something like every human desires. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for that. Who else?
Something kind of like that is just being aware of who you're like spending time with and surrounding yourself with, because those people like shape your intentions and your thoughts and your actions, and like just kind of realizing what people are kind of encouraging you to do, you know, because like if you're not careful enough, you'll end up in a bad place.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. And these are things I feel like when we're like growing up or going into high school, whatever, their parents will tell us, like, be careful who your friends are. And then at first we're just like, okay, like,
Yeah,
sure.
just kinda, like, goes over your head.
But then like you guys, as kind of like now exiting this realm of high school, being able to see, oh yeah, I kind of do see where that all fades in. Yeah, that's good.
This is really kind of like what they've said, but for me, I would kind of say like find at least like 2 friends that you like can hold like super accountable, and then like it's also important to have like other community like outside of that, but just like at least a couple people that you can really like count on and grow close to.
Yeah.
Just because that's really important if you're like in a hard time and you don't like, there's some people that might be in your community that you don't feel like you can like share a lot of stuff with, but just like trying to find people that you know, like be there and help you through that.
Yeah.
That you can be vulnerable with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think that that's important, but like finding people that are also not like-minded with you is important to like figure out for yourself what you believe and also to be a light in their life, but that's obviously hard if you don't have people who you trust and can talk to about stuff that you believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you kind of have to have both sides. So like if you're only plugging in like one side, like say like only at the church those people, then you're not really seeing like what else is out there. But
Yeah.
if you're only with like the world necessarily, then like you might like fall into that more, like how you said,
Yeah.
like who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, like having a good balance of like who you're hanging out with and all that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good stuff. I remember when I was in high school, I had a friend. His name was Kurt, and like I didn't really have a lot of good friends at my high school. All my friends were like church friends and all that kind of stuff. But he drove this white Astro van, and it's like this big kind of creepy looking van, to be honest. But that's it. That was his car. Like he had no choice, and so that was his car. But I go to his house all the time, like weekends and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like knocking on his door, and he texts me. He's like, "We're in the Astro van," and they're just parked out there. So I'm like, "Okay." So I open it. We get in the Astro van, and he's like, "Nick, how are you doing, man?" And I'm like, "I'm good." And he's like, "No, you're not. What's going on?" Like, so he like knew immediately that I wasn't doing good, and that led to like a really good conversation and all that kind of stuff. So it sounds like that's like a big thing that you guys are communicating is like find those people in high school.
Yeah, and I'd also say discipleship is really important, and like having someone like Heather that you can talk to that's not involved in your life directly, but someone that's gonna always give you advice that you need to hear and not always what you want to hear, but someone who's not biased.
That's
important.
Yeah, definitely. Heather, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I will say that I am a little biased, actually, because I love y'all so much. But no, I think they're right on, and I think I've seen the evidence of finding good community in their lives and how it's impacted their lives, and in seasons when they haven't been surrounded by good intentional community and how that impacts them. And so I've seen it play out, and I'm really pleased to hear that they've learned the value of that, because I think that's something to latch onto for entering into college, because that's what I would say is the most important thing. You know, like there's key essentials, and that's like food, water, shelter, and community. Like seriously, those are really important for your mental well-being and your your success.
Yeah, and I would also say, you know, for you guys as well, knowing what good community looks like, but also you might enter into a place where there might not be good community, or there might be, but it's just not necessary for you. So there could be a thing where God calls you guys to create that community. And so we know, which can be hard, but I think a really beneficial thing, you know, because we all know that all humans look for that. And so, dang, that's good. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say this is kind of like going into the next chapter, but I have been looking for a roommate, and I think I finally found one. And it's just, for me, the options were either somebody that I know is going to be going to church and kind of holding me accountable to that, versus somebody that I know that would be fun to go out and hang out with on weekends, and that. And one would have been way easier going into college, not knowing anybody. One's definitely the easier way out, but I made the hard choice to go with the roommate that I knew was gonna be more intentional with me. And so that's another thing that I think is important for those, I guess, juniors or seniors, is just knowing what you're going into and the person you want to be in college too,
Knowing
So.
what kind of support you need in that season.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, knowing yourself too, I think is good too. Knowing okay, I can be around this person and I'll be all right, or I can't be around this person because I know, I've had those friends in high school where it's I love them to death, but I can't hang out with them all the time because we're gonna get bad version of Nick, and it's not gonna be good. And so, and I still chose to hang out with them sometimes, and it wasn't great, but yeah, knowing yourself, I think, is a good thing too. For current high schoolers, know yourself, know what gives you life, and what takes from you is a good one.
Well, that ties into what Lainee was saying about knowing yourself. And in high school is a really important season of forming those opinions. What do you believe about things? How do you feel about other people's choices? And just identifying who you are as an individual is super, super important, because like going into that next season, like you said, you got to know who you are and what your triggers are, where you thrive, where you fall short, and surround yourself with people that are going to make it more stable and efficient.
And even like if the roommate situation, because my roommates I don't know either, and if like that doesn't work out, I feel like you really just have to like trust that you can like lean on him to like pull away from your roommate when you can, and go find like more community, like we've been saying. Because it's like knowing yourself, knowing what's gonna make you better and what's gonna make you worse. Like it would be easier to just keep hanging out with her, but it is like better actually to go find like other people.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And there's for sure going to be trial and error, as well.
Yeah.
Like learning, like definitely don't get discouraged when you jump in. Like, oh, this is terrible. I'm leaving. So that's another thing is learning. Oh, okay, that didn't work, and so there's a lot of that going on. But that's good. And that's some really good stuff, guys.
Yeah, don't bail when you fail, because that's what builds
Don't bail
success.
when you fail.
Okay, yes.
Don't fail.
That just came out, but it's true. It's so true.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna get that tattooed somewhere. That's awesome. That's great. Okay, here we go. Here's a pretty fun question. What are you guys looking forward to most in your next season of life? Literally, big life transformation. And so, what are you guys looking forward to most?
I mean, we've talked so much about community, but like seriously, I'm just so excited to like find like friends. I mean, Grace is so small, which can be a good thing because you can find your people. But I mean, I'm going to A&M, which is so big. It's huge. Yeah. So I mean, I think I'm just excited to see like kind of where I find my friends and like how I like meet them. Like I'm excited to see what circumstances I like meet my true friends, and just like seeing new personalities and like how I interact with them, and like I don't know. I'm just excited to meet new people, which we've talked a lot about, but it's true.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. What else?
Just like change all over. Like I'm staying in Tyler, but my life is still gonna change. So just like excited for new things and new opportunities. And
yeah, we talked about that when you got here, of like this weird feeling you'll start getting at like Tuesday at an afternoon where you're like, I feel like I should be in school right now. What's happening? And so like there's still days where I'm like driving like to work at 10 a.m. because I can, and I'm seeing like kids at school, and I'm like and just like I don't know, like it's just I don't have to be there,
So evil.
Yeah, well, anything to make me feel better about myself and stuff. But yeah, so yeah, the life change, the learning, like now managing like schedule, like the adulting kind of stuff too. Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, what are some of the things you guys looking forward to?
For me, I'm obviously super excited where I'm going, but it's not like where I would have said I was going, or like just kind of like it didn't play out like how I would have planned it for myself. Yeah. But I just like prayed about it a lot, and like the doors of where I like thought I would go, like all of those closed, and like that was hard, but I know that this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. So I'm just like excited to see what my purpose is there, because I know like it's where I'm supposed to be. So like I do get nervous about it, but then at the same time I'm like, no, I shouldn't be nervous, because like if I was going to those other places, I honestly feel like I would be more nervous, because I would feel like so uneasy about it. And so like I just have like a peace about this, and so I'm excited to like see what my purpose is there.
Yeah. I think that's a really good testament on your faith too, of like having plans, and then, well, it wasn't my original plan, but it's this now, but I know I'm supposed to be there, and it's nerve-wracking, but I do know I'm supposed to. I think that's the perfect definition of faith. It's just like, I know this is something I have to do, but I am so nervous about it, and so I think that's a good thing for really any students to hear at any point in their life, of like, because I don't know how often, if you guys make plans for something and the plans fall through, that it can be a situation where it's like, all right, well that kind of sucked, but that's where I think that's where faith in our Lord comes in, of being able to, it's going to be hard, but I know that this is where I need to be. So I think that's a really cool thing. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
I'm also excited to kind of just like have more free time and kind of like figure out not what my hobbies are, but kind
Yeah.
of have more time to like do them, because especially like senior year in this semester has been so busy. And I mean, we're in school all day, every day, and then we go home and don't have that much time. But I'm just excited to have like a shift of like schedule and like figuring out what I enjoy and like having more time to do those things.
Yeah.
And not just doing the same thing you've done
Yeah.
every single day for your whole life.
Yeah.
And actually begin to study things that you're actually
Yeah,
interested
exactly.
in.
Yeah.
You can, and like choosing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like for school, it's always been, I mean, I guess we've had a little bit more freedom choosing classes, but not really a lot of things are like put on us to do. Like we don't really get to choose. So that
Yeah.
is exciting to have
Yeah.
more of a choice in that.
Yeah, and like with that, like there's so many things you do at school, and like I just like won't be doing any of those. Which like like if you would have been like, oh, what are your hobbies? I might have said like, oh, I do cheer at school and I do
Yeah,
tennis
and
at
I
school.
probably
But
would've
like
said volleyball.
I'm
Yeah.
not cheering in
Yeah.
college.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's just like things like that, and like I would say are like, oh yeah, those are my hobbies, but they're like really not. And
Yeah.
so it's like, oh, okay, now I'm gonna find like actual things that I can do
Yeah.
every day that are like.
Yeah.
are
Those things in
fun.
high school are like just things that you did.
Yeah, but they're
Yeah.
not like, I don't know. But
Yeah.
you put like a part of your like identity with those
Yeah.
things, but they're like not.
Because
Gonna
when
be
people
there.
would say like, what are you involved in? It's like sports.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like you can't play sports in college, but I mean, I'm obviously not doing it like.
Yeah,
as
like
my
you're not on Annan's
school-
volleyball
yeah.
team, like
Definitely
unless I haven't
Not yet,
heard.
Mason, let's go.
Yeah, unless I haven't
Let's
heard.
go.
Walked
Didn't
on.
know if you committed, but
Surprise.
That would be awesome. but it is also, yeah, it is a thing
Yeah.
where it's like you're involved in this club or this activity or this sport, and then you go off to college, and then but if you identified yourself very heavily with that, that's what happened to me. I identified myself heavily with a sport, and then that was no longer part of my identity after high school, and then I was just like, oh crap, who's Nick Zavala now? And so, but I think it's cool. Like now you have more opportunities to explore some of these new things, or maybe some of these interests you've always had, but never really had an opportunity to fully jump into it. But yeah,
Yeah, kind of like that, but not even in the college sense. Like, we have this whole summer, you know? And I feel like it'd be good if we challenge ourselves to, like, instead of being on our phone, like, trying and doing something creative or active, you know? Like, it's not always the easiest thing, but just, like, getting out there and trying something new is,
Yeah.
like, so good for you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
yeah, definitely. We got janitors moving chairs in the other room, so
Oh. It's like, did I say
It is what it
something
is.
that was, like, really funny? And I didn't know.
yeah, that's what's shared space. I love it. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Any additions to things you guys are excited for? Anything specific? Like, I know I'm taking this class and I'm really pumped for it. Is there like, I don't know, is there any like weird Aggie traditions that you're excited for that's about to happen?
I mean, football games are so fun.
That's what I've heard. That's
yes,
what I've heard.
but I mean, they're fun.
Yeah.
And then I know we're rushing in the fall, which is
Nice.
kind of exciting, kind of nerve-wracking, but yeah. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of traditions, but
Yeah. Okay.
we'll see.
I know, it's really not like that different, but since I'm living in Oklahoma, like I like think about that sometimes because I've only ever lived in Tyler and obviously like Texas,
Yeah.
and so it's like, oh, I'm just gonna be living in a completely different state, which
Yeah.
is weird.
Texas is such a like everybody, you know, like I'm a Texan, you know,
Yeah,
and like we've always
it just
known
like
that.
kind of makes
Basically
me
its own
sad.
country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really like it's
Yeah.
just weird.
Yeah, you're moving states. Yeah, you're moving
Yeah.
states too. Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah, jeez, and so yeah, the state moving thing's always really fun, especially if you come from a prominent state like Texas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I entered into Texas from California, and I got all, sorry about that.
You're not really
Wait.
Texan.
Go to Austin, Nick. What are you doing here in Tyler? No, anyways, all right. Next question. Here we go. What's been the biggest thing that God has shown you guys throughout your high school career, or like the biggest maybe lesson, or the biggest, I don't know, the most impact that God has shown in your life, in your high school career?
Probably like mostly this year. Anna Claire kind of talked about it, but I really didn't know where I wanted to go either.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's been like family schools, but I kind of thought in my head that, oh, I kind of just want to do my own thing. But like, I don't know. I like applied to so many different places, and then like some of those doors got shut, and then some of them I just realized that like weren't for me.
Yeah.
And I think that just having like trust, because I mean, I'm obviously still nervous. I'm not like, wow, I am so like 100% confident.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm confident in my choice. I'm just not like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone's probably a little bit nervous, but I think just like having trust in him knowing what's best. And like also, there had been people that had like asked me to room with him that I knew, but I chose the people that like I don't really know. And so just like having trust that he'll like build those relationships and that they'll be good for me,
Yeah.
rather than like I could have gone with someone that I already knew. But I think just like having trust in a lot of things, and I feel like we've kind of talked about that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust is a big deal. Yeah.
I feel like I've learned a lot through high school is that like stuff isn't really that serious, and like all the little things, they don't define you. Like I've just had to learn, like if you make a bad grade or like you lose a friendship, like it's not, I mean it feels like the end of the world, but it's really not, and it doesn't define you. And like as a freshman, and then when you're a senior, like you're not even going to remember it. You're probably not even going to remember that person. It's just like just learning to find your identity and your worth in something that's more meaningful than just like little things or like popularity, things like that just aren't really that meaningful. I mean, they're just worldly.
What kind of like what you're saying, Lainee, is I feel like I learned the lesson that the world is not faithful, and it's like it's not trustworthy, and the things that you put your worth in that are from the world will always fail you. Like there is no hope in them, and you will always be disappointed if that's where you're putting your worth. And like even people too, like you can't always put your faith in somebody else to give you joy. And so just like knowing that ultimately God really is the only one that can, like fulfill you. So.
Yeah, I had a season where I was just kind of like lost, and I had a lot of doubt and a lot of just like uncertainty, and I just had to realize although all of the things that you want to identify yourself with in the world are like fun, but like everything that you want is what God is. Like everything that any human really wants is what God is. So why not pursue him and give your life to him, because he will give you anything that you've ever wanted.
Yeah.
So I just kind of had to realize that.
I was gonna say that your faith is something you kind of have to work for. Like it's not just gonna like become easy, because I've definitely gone through like seasons throughout high school where like my faith will be really high, and I will like kind of just like let that lie, and I kind of like slowly stop pursuing, where like maybe I don't do my quiet time as much or like whatever, and then like that I'll keep doing that, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm back to this spot, and it's really not like where it was, and it like I do things and I notice like, oh, like I probably wouldn't have done that, or like I wouldn't have said that, or like whatever. And so like it's just something that you have to pursue just as much as like any other relationship. Like you have to work for it if you want to like reap the benefits and like have that like relationship with God.
Yeah. That's good, because if you just get thrown in the fire and never actually worked on your faith, what's our response going to be? Yeah.
And kind of like with that, I feel like we've talked a lot about like making your faith a priority, because literally everything in your life is built off of your faith. So like if you have something in your life that you put above your faith, like you can't build things in your life off of what's like at the top of your like priorities. So I feel like making faith a priority is just like super important to like everyone.
What I've gotten the privilege of seeing in these girls, and like something that they've learned in high school is, and maybe they wouldn't, I think you all would, is in reflection on your life through high school, but is that the hard things have been such a huge part in shaping who you are. And so like learning and even advice to younger students is that the hard stuff is really important. It's an important piece to growing and thriving and your faith increasing. And so I've seen these girls go through some really hard seasons. And I've also seen them persevere and come out of it at the end, like why I said in the very beginning that I believe that they're ready for the next step is because I've seen what they've walked through. And they know that God is constant and that he is faithful. I think that they know that. They don't just know that. I think they know that. I think they have an experiential knowledge of God's goodness and faithfulness. And they've seen that play out in their lives. And so I would also say, in addition to that, as far as like learning and growing was going to be something really important, and I've lost it. But anyway, I've definitely seen them walk through some really hard seasons. And I know what I was going to say is showing themselves grace. Like you girls, like they put so much pressure on themselves to meet everyone else's standards in their lives. And I've already heard you say it about how like God is the only one that you need to focus on and fix your eyes on him, right? Like pursuing him is what in fact makes you radiant, and you will not see shame. Psalm 34:5, right?
Preaching.
So shame is not of the Lord. But showing yourself grace, like that has to be a muscle memory of that you have. And I believe you girls have learned that. So when you bump into hard things in college, like showing yourself grace that you don't have to be the best at all the things. You don't have to meet anyone else's standards. You have to be obedient, and you have to press into the Lord in all things, right? So, and I think that they've learned that. Whether they, in hard things, can practice it, but it's muscle memory. It's just doing it over and over every time. So, but I've seen these girls learn some really hard things. So.
Yeah, and I think that's like another thing, like, because, I mean, when I was getting out of high school, like, my freshman year, I had certain plans, and I wanted to do certain things and all the kind of stuff, and my faith was not prepared for the trials that I was going to face, and God knew that, too, and he had to, like, reshape my life in some crazy radical ways, and I think the benefit that you guys have going into the next season of life is you know that things that trials will come, whether they're outside of your control or whether they're your own fault, right? But trials will come, and the great thing is our faith tells us that God knows those things too. And this isn't a thing where it's like, okay, you know, I have a fresh plate when it comes to college, and let's make sure it's perfect and clean. And but if you mess up, like, you know, God isn't saying, oh, you messed up, sorry, I'm moving on to the next person. But like he knows that some of those things are going to come, and I think a lot of times people, when they move on to another season of life, whether it is graduating from high school, going to college, or a new job or whatever, and when the first big trial hits, I think that deters a lot of people. That throws them off course. But being able to go into these situations with faith and being able to say, like, okay, yeah, that hurt, that was terrible, but God is still faithful, and God is still here. And he knew that. He knew what was going to happen. He knew how I was going to feel through that whole thing. And so I think the theme is definitely faith. Faith for the future, and faith communicating that to students now, high school students now, and community. Faith and community are two big things. You know, it's cool to hear you guys say that, because it's nothing new under the sun. Like, it's especially if you've gone to church and you know, been part of youth ministry and you guys at Bible classes, but knowing that, man, God cares about his relationship with you, your relationship with him, and your relationship with people, and that's all it is. It's as simple as that, but it comes down to knowing yourself, right? It comes down to being wise in those things as well, but also knowing that there'll be times where we fail, but God is still there, and God is still faithful, you know, and his faith isn't dependent upon our faith either. And so that's
Thank goodness.
Yeah, praise, seriously, right? And so I mean, that's awesome, and I think what you guys have said is really, really beneficial to students today and whoever. But is there anything else that you guys wanted to share or talk about moving on to the next season of life? Anything that was pressing on your brain or on your heart?
I was just going to say, I feel like you can go however long, this is kind of like what you're saying, but I feel like you go however long without any trials, just feeling like you can talk about it as much as you want. Oh, like God will always be there for you, but until you go through the trials, like you're not going to, it just makes it more real for you. Yeah. And then I feel like after, like, it's hard to see while you're going through it, but afterwards you can look back and see, like, it makes your relationship so much more fruitful with God than if you were just going through everything. So just not getting discouraged while you're in the trials of, like, I'm not doing the right thing, or like I'm, you know, but just kind of realizing that
Yeah.
it's gonna happen, and it makes your relationship better than if you were to just
Reflecting post-trial is important. Yeah, definitely.
It's a part of that head-heart connection. You know, you have to experience it in order to practice it.
Yeah, for sure. Sweet. Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for coming, taking time out of your busy schedules, I guess. I don't know if it's not so busy right now, but
Not too busy today.
yeah, well, we appreciate it, and yeah, and just, you know, your guys' stories matter, and they're important, and you know, I think that sometimes we might think, oh, there's nothing special about my story or my testimony or whatever, but you know, you never know who you're going to come in contact with. You know, roommates, people at your school that can benefit from hearing from your stories and all that kind of stuff. So know that your stories do matter, and it's important, and I'm glad that you guys got to share a part of it today, and really excited to see how God uses that, how God uses you guys in your next phase of life. And so, but yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, you got it. All right, sweet.
Bye, y'all.
That's it. Thanks, guys.
And done.